Welcome to The Explainer. We are talking about a story today that has literally just turned the entire world of artificial intelligence completely on its head. Think of it like a classic David versus Goliath story, you know? But this time, it's algorithms instead of slingshots.
All right, so to really get this, we've got to understand the old rules of the game. For the last few years, the entire AI industry has basically been on a one-way street, running in one direction, and one direction only.
Yeah, the whole industry was pretty much locked in this massive arms race. The core belief, the dogma, really, was that the only way to get smarter AI was to build bigger and bigger models. And that meant more data, way more computer chips, and, you guessed it, spending billions and billions of dollars.
And this quote, it just perfectly captures that whole mindset. It was all about brute force, all about parameter counts, which, you can just think of them as the number of connections inside an AI's brain. The belief was super simple. Whoever had the most connections, the biggest model, was going to win. End of story.
But then, one day, that entire belief system just got shattered. An announcement dropped that seemed almost impossible. And the craziest part, it didn't come from any of the usual tech giants.
It was a tiny team, get this, just 6 former researchers from DeepMind. They called themselves Poetiq, and they announced a result that, I'm telling you, absolutely no one saw coming. It's like they took on the Mount Everest of AI tests, and they actually made it to the summit.
So let's just look at the scoreboard for a second. They didn't just beat the old record holder, which was Google's massive Gemini 3 model. No, they completely smashed it. They hit 54% accuracy on a test, where 45% was the absolute best anyone, and that includes Google's multi-billion-dollar project had ever managed to do.
And this is where it gets really crazy. This illustrates the real shocker. It wasn't just that their results were better. They were dramatically cheaper. They were solving these super complex problems for less than half the cost of the old record holder. So think about that. Better results for a tiny fraction of the price.
So yeah, this result sent a massive shockwave through the entire industry. You had everyone from top researchers to venture capitalists just scratching their heads, asking the exact same question. How is this even possible?
Well, the answer, it turns out, had nothing to do with building a bigger, more expensive brain. Nope. It was all about a radically new way of making the AI models we already have think a whole lot more effectively.
See, Poetiq didn't build a brand new AI from the ground up. Instead, they built what they call a meta-system. And probably the best way to think about it is like an intelligent conductor for a whole orchestra of AIs. So instead of the old way, relying on one single giant model to make one high-stakes guess at an answer, this meta-system uses powerful models we already know, like Gemini and GPT, as like individual musicians. The conductor's job is to coordinate all of them, get them to play together, and guide the whole group toward the right solution. And here's the really genius part of how this thing actually works. The system doesn't just ask an AI, hey, what's the answer? No, it forces the AI to propose its solution in the form of computer code. Then, and this is key, it actually runs the code to test if the idea works. If it fails, the system analyzes the mistake and basically says, nope, that didn't work, try again, forcing it to refine its logic over and over.
And this is the crucial point right here. It completely replaces that fuzzy, best guess thinking of a standard AI with the black and white logical rigor of running code. If the code works, your logic is solid. If it doesn't, your logic is flawed. It's that simple, and that is a total game changer.
So, as you can imagine, this breakthrough, which a lot of people are calling a Sputnik Moment for AI, has sent the entire community into a total frenzy. And the debate has really split people into 3 very distinct camps, and it happened almost overnight.
Okay, so first up, you've got the skeptics. Their immediate reaction was basically, wait a minute. They started questioning the results, worried that it was some kind of trick, or maybe that the system just memorized the test, that it was overtrained, which would make the result pretty meaningless for any real-world problems.
Then you've got the business world, and they saw something completely different. They saw a massive economic shift on the horizon. Think about it. If a tiny startup can use Google's own tools to beat Google, well, that suggests the real money. The real value isn't just in building the biggest models anymore. It's about who can orchestrate them the most cleverly.
And finally, you have the true believers, the accelerationists. For them, this was it. This was the signal they've been waiting for. They look at this incredible leap in reasoning and see it as definitive proof that we are right on the verge of creating artificial general intelligence, AGI. So, what does all this mean for the future? Well, it means the fundamental rules of the AI game have been completely rewritten. I mean, the entire roadmap for AI looks totally different today than it did just a week ago. Everything's changed. We've basically shifted from an era where intelligence came from this huge, super expensive pre-training process to a brand new era where intelligence comes from an effective, iterative thinking process, one that happens in real time, right at the moment you need to solve a problem.
If there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this. Clever orchestration just proved, without a doubt, that it can beat raw, brute force scale. A smarter process just beat a bigger processor. Simple as that.
This fundamental shift, right, from a race for pure scale to a race for smart orchestration, it just blows the doors wide open on the competitive landscape. And you might be asking, okay, why does this matter to me? Well, it matters because it levels the playing field. It points to a future where the most powerful AI tools aren't locked away with a few giant companies. A future where they're more accessible, they're cheaper, and they're driven by clever ideas, not just deep pockets. So it leaves us all with one big question. Now that the rules have totally changed, what incredible breakthroughs are coming next?